Good morning. Happy Vulnerable AF Friday. The first thought is to apologize for my absence, but I don't think I should apologize or need to apologize. I think a lot of times, I don't even want to consider myself a content creator necessarily. I'm trying to open a wiper my glasses because they're hella dirty. I don't really view myself as a content creator, even though I guess that's what this is. I'm just out here trying to be a real person, sharing my story, and living my life and showing up as and when I feel called. And I have to be honest, I haven't really been feeling called to show up in a lot of areas in my life. And I think a lot of that has to do with the trauma, unfortunately. And even like the more I get on here and I make videos, I'm almost just like, I don't want to say like I necessarily feel like I'm blaming everything on trauma. I'm trying to do this. But I feel like it gets old, like trauma. Like I feel like if somebody came in and took my videos and like clipped them all together, you know what I mean? If you've ever seen that video of somebody proving that all of the news companies are owned by one giant corporation, and you could be, you know, on the other side of the country, continental US, and they're all like saying the same thing, and it'd be like trauma. But and my thing is, I do these videos because I want to show people that you can come out on the other side and you can have a meaningful life, and the importance of learning self-love and giving yourself space and all that, right? But lately I've really been struggling. If I'm gonna be completely honest, transparent, keep it 100%, this I'm gonna have to go to work and like put some Windex on these mugs, because I don't know if I made that better or worse just now, but I've been struggling lately. So to be perfectly clear, honest, transparent, I've just been struggling. Like I've been pushing myself to like level up my life. You know what I mean? Like with work and my home life, like all that. And recently I found myself feeling like I'm just not good enough, right? Like things have come up, whether that's somebody repeating something somebody else said about me that was not a positive thing, or me feeling like I'm really trying and then being confronted by somebody. I shouldn't say confronted, because it wasn't like a confrontation necessarily, but just communicating to me like, you know, their needs and whatever. And I have to also recognize, sorry, it's allergy season. I also have to recognize that to some degree people's expectations of me have nothing to do with me. Do you know what I mean? Like when you encounter people who have a different standard of life, different quality of life, not that mine is wrong or bad or theirs is wrong or bad, but sometimes they're just different and they're not necessarily on the same page, even when you try to be. Do you know what I mean? And so I'm like, as I'm saying all this now and I'm reflecting on the struggle that I've been having like the past week or so with all of this, it's important for me to note for myself that like, even though I've taken a lot of the input and criticism as like a hit to my person, my being, it's not necessarily that. But that doesn't also mean that there's not truth in the things that somebody else is saying. You know, so it's like this, it's like I'm trying to walk this tightrope in my life of like being everything I want to be and being everything I think I should be. You know what I mean? And sometimes we think we have to be things to other people, especially when you have like a people-pleasing tendency, which it's like the more you're like, I'm going to conquer this tendency of mine, I'm going to conquer this habit, it's almost like the more you decide that you're going to conquer some part of yourself or you're going to change some part of yourself, the more you get challenged in that way. You know what I mean? And about religion because I don't know if I would say that I'm on the fence about religion. Like, I don't like the idea of religion as what's the word I'm looking for? My brain's saying infrastructure, but it's not that. It's institution. Okay, religion as an institution. But I do believe there is something greater than us out there in the world, and that's a relationship I work on developing every day, myself and all of creation, the creator, whatever the case may be. I totally got off topic here. What was I talking about? Something about this, because I was going to bring religion into it, and so this is something else that I don't like. I feel like I have to preface everything so that everybody else can swallow it, and by swallow it, me, right? Like, I feel like if I don't over explain me, I'm not going to be digestible for anybody. Like, it's very annoying sometimes. But I feel like my previous content hasn't been the best. I feel like in a lot of ways I've been showing up to show up. Not that, the things that I've said aren't hot topics or whatever, and I don't always necessarily want to weigh in on whatever the hot topic is or whatever the argument of whatever people are discussing is, you know what I mean? I really want to try to stay focused, and here I am already all over the place. I really want to try to stay focused. We're going to hope it comes together. I really want to try to stay focused on unity, you know what I mean? And the individual work that goes into unity, from my understanding, which, again, I'm not licensed, I'm not, this is all just me speaking my opinion and my experiences. I'm not saying that anything that I say is fact-based. I'm saying from my perspective and the understandings I have of life, this is how I feel, believe, think, whatever. You know what I mean? It's always subject to change. It's always subject to change. Okay? So, but I feel like from my perspective and what I do know, what I am able to know, there could be somebody out there that has been doing this walk a lot longer than me, has a lot more insight that I don't know about, right? So, they may feel like that's not the way, but for me, I feel like the only way to have unity is to start with the unit that is you first, right? And that's really just kind of working through the things and going back to that's where I was going back to, like, I've been feeling, I guess, tested, right? Like, okay, I know I'm a people pleaser. I want to work on that. I don't want to people please. I want to be of service when I feel called to be of service. And I want to be helpful because I like to be helpful, but I don't want to do it to be liked. I don't want to do it to be accepted. I don't want to do it to fit in. I don't want to do it to feel safe. Do you know what I mean? I want to help because I want to help, not because I'm afraid that something will happen to me, which is deeply ingrained in, I think, the overall fundamental of being a human, right? Is being an outcast, being excluded. So we do the things that we think we have to do to not have that consequence, right? And so I'm like, okay, well, I know I'm a people pleaser, and I really kind of don't want to be that, and I want to make sure that, that I'm also working on this, and I'm also working on that. So I'm one of those people where I never just have one tab open, right? I have like fucking 50 tabs open in my personal development life, in my me going to work, me going home, me whatever. Like, I have a bunch of tabs open, right? And I'm trying to, like, level myself up and get to a place where I feel that I would like to be in my life, which requires a lot of effort and things like that, right? Like, it requires effort that some days I feel like I don't even fucking have, you know what I mean? And so I have to dig deep, and I have to push myself, and I have to have, like, those mental conversations, because this is something that I've talked about for a long time, is that the power of the brain, right? And so a lot of times, because I've been so programmed into the negative way of being, thinking I'm the victim, right? It's a lot harder for me sometimes to override the resistance that I feel to overcome certain things. And so, like, lately I've been, like, really wanting to do, like, I don't want to people please, and, like, I want to help, and I want to be of service, and I want to earn my keep wherever I am. But I don't want to kill myself to do it. Do you know what I mean? And so when you feel like you're working really hard, and, like, you're creating this sort of like training ground for yourself to level up your life, and you turn around and you're met with like all these people saying you're not good enough, basically, which they'll say that's not what they're saying, but my triggers tell me that's what they're saying. You know what I mean? My triggers tell me, like when people tell me I'm not good enough, it's like boom. Like it's almost like if you've seen like a cinematic movie where somebody like they get hit with an unseen force and they just kind of, you know, blow backwards or whatever. It's like that. It's like I get blown back into being a young girl in a house where I was never good enough. Nothing I ever fucking did was good enough. Nothing I did was right enough. And that is that trigger tied to that, which interferes with my life, interferes with my daily living, and it's very hard to overcome. I wish it was just as easy as being like, I see that I'm having this trigger because of this. But that recognition in itself, that acknowledgement in itself, that acceptance in itself is not the cure. It's not the antidote to the problem of the turmoil that it causes within. And this kind of turmoil that it causes within, I'm just going wherever this is taking me, okay? But again, this is not, I haven't prepped this, this is just what's coming up, but whatever, right? So that feeling of like not enoughness starts to trigger all kinds of other things like depression, anxiety, I don't want to be here, right? So that's the thing, like people think that because you can acknowledge it and you can see it and you can trace where it comes from, that's the work and it's done, and that's not the work and it's done. It's like then I have to like completely destructure, like I have to go into the trenches of that trigger and completely destructure it, line by line, bit by bit, brick by brick, and be like, what's true and what's not true. You know what I mean? And when that's been your life for a lifetime, that's a lot of work. You know what I mean? And it's like, where do I find time to do the me work so that I can do the outside work, so that I can be a part of this society? And I think that's where a lot of people that are struggling with mental illness right now, I think that's a big factor that many people maybe haven't, like even now as I'm sitting here saying this is all like epiphany level shit happening for me right now. Like this is not something that I'm like, oh, I've already accumulated these awarenesses, right? No, this is happening in real time. The things I'm saying to you is real time realizations myself, right? And so I think that a lot of people that are struggling with mental health and stuff, which let's be real is like a serious problem. You know what I mean? We'll fucking social distance and we'll fucking buy up all the toilet paper because society tells us that's what's going to keep us safe, but we don't focus on the part that we need to focus on. And if somebody did tell us, would we even do it? You know what I mean? If somebody was like, you can spread your PTSD if you don't cover your cough. You know what I mean? Like when people suddenly distance, or people, you know what I'm saying? So it's like, that's the real problem that we have. The greatest problem that is plaguing humanity is people that have unhealed trauma. Because A, it's not easy to heal. I know there's people out there that are like, well, the more you focus on your trauma, the more your trauma is, the more it exists, and the less that you have this other life. Well, I'm trying to live this other life. I'm trying to be like, oh, okay, I understand where that comes from. I get it now. Let me move on with life. And it doesn't fucking work. I wish it did. I wish it was as simple as just deciding one day, I'm not going to live there anymore. But when you go through a lifetime of experiences and you have a similar experience as an adult, even though you've long since been out of that situation, it can trigger you and throw you right back into that. And all that you can do to combat it at that point is hopefully you've been working on healing it, and through healing you've developed the tools necessary that when you find yourself in that tailspin spiral, you know how to pull the lever and say, we're getting out of this. We're not going to go down and crash. We're not going to crash and burn. You know what I mean? Like I've done all those other times when I didn't have the tools that I have now, or I didn't have the awareness that I have now, or I didn't have the self-love that I have now, where I didn't have the grace that I give myself that I have now, which the grace and self-love are pretty well tied in together in my opinion. So I'm going through this cycle myself, right? I'm in my own bit of a tailspin the past week or so, and that's what people do. People with trauma, they start to, when they get in a tailspin, they'll start to isolate because they feel like they're alone. First of all, we feel like we're alone. Doesn't matter how many people are in the room, we feel like we're alone, right? And so then You feel like you're alone, so you start pulling back because you're like, well, fuck, I can't do nothing right anyway. It doesn't fucking matter. What the fuck does it matter? I might as well just like, isolate, and then like, and that's when it can get better or it can get worse. It just depends on how a person isolates. Are they isolating negatively, or are they isolating to grow? Because you can do both. And it can be like a grief system where you are doing both simultaneously, where it's like you're in your feelings and you're being a butthurt victim, and then you're also being like, no, I'm not that person anymore. I'm not doing that anymore. I'm not gonna fucking fall down and cry and woe is me and whatever. And you'll have that fight in you to get back up and try again, and then that other part will try to kind of weasel in and be like, yeah, but I mean, obviously you can't fucking get it right. You know what I mean? Like, so I've been fighting with a lot of that personally lately, and sort of the conclusion that I've come to is I'm just gonna have to let life. Okay, I can't control what other people think or feel, or how that affects my relationship with them, professional or otherwise. All I can do is do my best, and it's hard though, because you're out there trying to do your best, and you feel like, oh, if people only fucking knew. You know what I mean? If people only fucking knew. And like, I've been tired a lot lately. Like, I feel like my body is just like not cooperative. Like, getting old, like, it's a fucking trap. Like, being an adult is a trap. Okay, I was talking about this with a friend of mine yesterday. I was like, it's a fucking trap. Like, you know what I mean? I was like, when we're kids, we think, oh, becoming an adult, that's the freedom. That's where the trap starts. Being the kid is the freedom. Like, that's the thing we don't understand as children, is that being the kid is the freedom. And it may not feel like it, but at least in most cases, hopefully, your oppressor actually loves you. You know what I mean? And your oppressor, only wants the best for you. Whereas you get into a job and you have a boss that now is maybe your oppressor, if that's how you feel. You know what I mean? And depending on your trauma or whatever it is that you're dealing with. And they don't give a fuck. Do you know what I mean? Like, they don't give a fuck. So we were talking about that, and I was like, yeah, I've never heard anybody but another adult say, I need an adult. Like, you don't ever hear kids go, I need an adult. You know what I mean? So we were talking about that. And they were just checking in on me because they knew I was having some difficulties. And I appreciate them very much checking in on me. And it's hard because, you want to be vulnerable, but you don't want to worry people. So, like, I had to be like, hey, like, I'm okay, it's good. Like, the thing about me, I don't know if this is true of other people with PTSD from childhood and whatever, but for me, it's like the emotion hits, and it's like something gets detonated, and it like I don't know how to describe it. This is the oh no. I just it's like the feelings hit, and it's like I go into the feelings. You know what I mean? Like, it's hard for me to channel logic when my feelings get hurt. You know what I mean? Like, any feeling, it doesn't matter, happy, sad, in between, whatever. Once my feelings get triggered, it's hard for me to think logically. It's hard for me, and that's probably partially being a woman, right? We're emotional beings to begin with, and whatever. But it's made that much harder being an emotional being when you have these triggers that you recognize, but maybe you don't necessarily know how to overcome. And they interfere in your fucking day-to-day life, where you are just trying to move on, and you are just trying to have a better life and get past this bullshit. You know what I mean? Like, simply put. So that's why I haven't really shown up much the past week. I didn't do a video the last 2 Thursdays. I didn't do a video last Friday. I really just wasn't feeling it. You know what I mean? I was, and the odd thing is, even before I did not do my Friday video, an incident happened that day. A couple of incidences happened that day after the fact. So it was almost like subconsciously I didn't do a video because whatever, right? And so I've just kind of been I've been in, I don't want to say like in the trap, but I've been in my feelings. I've been in my feelings. And I don't know, again, if this is like a PTSD symptom or issue, but I find that it takes me a lot of time to work through things. You know, I tend to get very emotional when I'm working through things because as much as my brain and body have tried to protect me in life, it's also been very unkind to me. You know what I mean? And that's because of the programming I had as a child. But because of that programming, sometimes my brain can be a whole asshole to me. Do you know what I mean? Like, sometimes my brain will just kick in those recordings, those old recordings. Like, it's like some evil part of my subconscious goes to the fucking library of bullshit from the past and dusts off the shelf and says, here's the tape we're gonna play right now. Oh, she's going into like a shame spiral. Well, let's plug this in and just further kick her while she's down. You know what I mean? Like, that's PTSD brain. That's what PTSD brain does. I don't know about like people that have been through like wartime things. Like, I don't know if that's how their PTSD brain works, but I know mine, as a person that grew up kind of rough, and it's not even the worst, right? Like, yeah, I grew up rough, and like, yeah, there's people that have it way worse. You know what I mean? There's people that have it way worse. Don't get me wrong, but that doesn't take away from the fact that like my brain was basically damaged as a child. You know what I mean? And I'm not saying that, like, I don't want to harp on that and like fully blame my parents, even though it's kind of their fault. You know what I mean? But I don't think that people especially back then, when people got pregnant, they didn't get necessarily pregnant because they wanted it or they planned it. It happened because they were doing things they thought they were adult enough to do, and oopsie, right? And so then they get put into this position where now they have to like be responsible for another human being, and they can barely be responsible for themselves. And I feel like, honestly, I struggle with that myself. Like, it's hard for me sometimes to feel like I have to be responsible for other people when I struggle to be responsible for myself. Like, I gotta go to work and be responsible to work, but I'm barely responsible to myself. And it's not because I don't want to be, it's not because I'm lazy, it's not because I don't care, it's because it's just hard for me. It's hard for me to like get past, I don't want to say like, and it's weird because I know this channel is supposed to be about you can overcome it, but I'm just saying, like, just because you can overcome it doesn't mean that you just get to fucking pack it away in a trunk and it never fucking resurfaces. You know what I mean? Just because your life can get better doesn't mean that through the process of healing you're not going to hit that spot where you feel like, honestly, like I feel like I'm at a point where I feel like I could literally have a mental breakdown. Do you know what I mean? And it's crazy. Like, when I sit there and I think about that I feel that way, and then I have to wonder, is that really even real, right? But the fact that I feel that way after all the fucking work I've done, it's like mind-blowing. And then that gets frustrating, right? So then I get triggered again because I'm like, oh, here the fuck we go again, you know? All the fucking work I've done don't mean fucking shit, but it does. It does, because guess what? Old me would not be getting to work on time right now because they're going into this whole fucking like, woe is me and life's so hard and nobody understands. And that's true, but the world don't give a fuck, okay? Regardless how true that is, the world don't give a fuck. And as long as I'm gonna be in this world, of this world, whatever the fuck, I gotta play by this world's rules. So until I can figure out how to not live within this fucking world, I gotta play by this world's rules. That don't mean I don't bend them, that mean I don't break them, that don't mean I don't completely ignore them at times. You know what I mean? But like, I gotta show up for work, I gotta make a fucking paycheck. I mean, I don't know how to go fucking live in the wilderness. I wish I did, but I don't. But I could learn those things. I don't even know you could learn that through YouTube. I know you could like see it and you could have like the mental understanding, but that wasn't like mental. There's like mental learning, and then there's hands-on learning. And I don't know anybody that could go out and successfully skin an animal that wasn't taught that by hand at some point in their life, because there's things you have to be considerate of when you're killing an animal and you're skinning them, and you know, you have to like watch out for their organs and all that other kind of stuff, right? Like, I do know that much, right? But I'm just saying, you know, like, it's just, some days it really is fucking hard. As much as I want to be a fucking ray of sunshine, which I'm really not, in my opinion, I try to keep things lighthearted, and I try to not take things so personal and serious. Like, I really do try to live that way overall in my life. But I'm human, and I do have a past, and it does get triggered, regardless of the work I've done, regardless of the fact that I've decided I'm moving on with my life and I'm moving forward and I'm living for me and whatever, you know what I mean? So I guess this video really is just to say, even though you can get through it and you can get past it and you can have a better life, it doesn't mean that sometimes you're not going to be fucking triggered. And sometimes you're really going to fucking struggle, even though you feel like you've done a lot of work. And when those days happen, don't set it all on fucking fire. Just keep fucking going and let life and see what the fuck happens. You know what I mean? Like, I'm just at a point where I'm letting life, and whatever the fuck happens, if somebody decides I'm not for them, or they don't want me in their life, or they don't want me to do whatever, I have to trust, right? Like, because I do believe that we chose our path before we fucking came here. And when we were born, we passed through the veil and our memory will hide. I do firmly believe that. I'm not saying you have to believe it. I'm not saying it's fucking factual. I'm just saying from the things that I've learned and I've gathered, I believe there is at least a shred of truth to that. And so, that being said, I have to go to work and I have to take cats to the vet, which means I have to round up cats and put them in a thing and listen to them yowl the whole way to the vet. Around 11, I think, so in an hour or so. Anyway, neither here nor there. So I'm just saying, when you're finding yourself having a hard day, you know what I mean? Again, like, I had to go through this recently where I was like, I was struggling to stand myself because I felt like nobody else was even fucking, like, they were in their own pain or turmoil or whatever it was that they were going through, or their own perceptions of life and me and whatever, right? And I'm not saying they're wrong. Like, they definitely are entitled to their feelings, and there's probably truth to some of the shit they're saying and whatever. But I was having a hard time even standing myself because I'm like, damn, fucking, I can't get shit right. Like, really? Fucking 2 for 2. I'm out here in the streets. I feel like I'm hitting a miss, hitting it. Like, I'm trying. Like, that's the hard part, is when you really feel like you're trying and you're really trying to make a fucking effort, and it's like somebody comes and shits on it. You know what I mean? Like, I have a boss, honestly, where I feel like anytime they catch wind that I'm trying to level up and I'm trying to have a fucking good day, like, they gotta come in and try to micromanage me and try to make me feel fucking small. And that's something else I struggle with too. Like, just because I may not do things the way you like, just because I may not do things to your standard, just because I don't do them in the way that you do them, doesn't mean that I'm doing them wrong. As long as I'm getting the job done, get the fuck out of my asshole. Like, you know what I mean? Like, that's how I feel. Like, that's, as long as I'm making shit happen, crawl the fuck up out of my asshole. Quit shitting on my fucking parade, okay? Everybody. Like, everybody. So, again, if you can't stand nobody fuck else, if you barely stand in your fucking self, just try to stand yourself. And if you're having a day like I've been having the last few days where I'm like, I don't even know if I fucking like myself right now, know that it's temporary and it will pass. And if you sit with it and you're as kind to yourself as you can be, and you're honest, that's the number one thing too. Like, having to be honest. Like, you know, it's like holding space for other people and being honest, holding space for yourself, and like trying to do all this, and it's like you're trying to juggle all of this. You'll find clarity. You know what I mean? Like, I think that's another thing that a lot of people struggle with PTSD is feeling like they're having or finding any kind of clarity in their struggle. And I know in the past I definitely had a hard time finding clarity, you know what I mean, or feeling like there would be any relief, or feeling like there would be any hope, but there always is. And one thing I had to do in early on, before I had any of the tools that I have now, the awareness that I have now, the understanding that I have now, the resilience that I have now, I would have to just tell myself on those days where I'm like, I really just don't want to fucking be here, I'd be like, just make it through one more day, Nicole. Before you try to make any stupid decisions, just make it through one more day and see how that goes, you know? And you just do that as many times as you fucking have to. Let's just make it through one more day. Let's just make it through one more day. Let's just make it through one more day. Let's see how it goes. Make it through one more day, you know? So, you can't say nobody fuck else, please stand yourself, be kind to yourself, be loving with yourself. Just because other people might be speaking truth about you does not mean that you are not a valued, important person. You know what I mean? Like, just because your strengths don't shine in the way that they think they should doesn't mean that you don't have strengths that are not important, necessary, or needed. You know what I mean? We're not all the same. As much as we are, we're not. You know what I mean? We're built the same, whatever, same. We all have blood, muscle, bone, tissue, whatever. But we all also have different unique gifts and ways that we excel and ways that we fucking don't. And it's okay if everybody wants to highlight the places where you don't excel all in one fucking day. You just have to remember the things that you are good at and try not to take the shit personal. It's hard. It's easier said than done to not take it personal, because I definitely take shit personal, but try not to. You know what I mean? So take care. Bye.